There's anxiety, and then there's Parkinson's anxiety. And trust me, they're not the same thing. You're sitting in a room full of people that you love, and your heart starts pounding, your chest feels tight, and your brain starts racing. You feel like something terrible is about to happen, but you can't even explain what the danger is. And the worst part, you start wondering, is this Parkinson's? Is this my medication? Am I losing my mind? Nobody warned me about this part. Nobody puts anxiety on the brochure. And some of the habits that we build just trying to survive it, they actually make it worse. So today, I want to walk you through 5 habits that quietly feed Parkinson's anxiety. And stick around to the end because I'm going to tell you about one moment where I realized my anxiety wasn't just in my head. It was actually tied to my Parkinson's and in a way that I completely missed. And when I finally saw it, a lot of things started to make sense.
Welcome to Living with Parkinson's. The good, the bad, and the reality. Real talk, real life, real community with Bryce Perry. Let's begin.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the episode. I'm Bryce, and this is Living with Parkinson's, the good, the bad, and the reality. If you're new here, grab a seat because this one matters. Because today we're going to talk about 5 habits that can make Parkinson's anxiety feel impossible to control. And not because you're doing something wrong, not because you're weak, and not because you're dramatic, but because some of us were just never taught how anxiety works when Parkinson's is involved. And with Parkinson's, anxiety doesn't always play by normal rules. All right, let's get into this. Mistake number 1 is this: isolating yourself when anxiety hits. Now, this is a big one. When anxiety hits with Parkinson's, the instinct is usually to run and disappear. You cancel plans. You stop texting people back. You sit quietly and you tell yourself, I don't want to burden anyone. I'll just deal with it myself. And I don't want people to see me like this. Now, I get this. I get it. I've done that. In that moment, isolation feels so much safer. It feels like protection. It feels like if I just stay away from people, then I don't have to explain myself. But here's the problem. Isolation feeds anxiety. Okay? It gives anxiety a private room, fresh coffee, and a remote control. And, and once anxiety gets comfortable in there, good luck getting it to leave. It's hard. Now, the science made simple is this: human beings help regulate each other. Your nervous system actually responds to other people. A calm person beside you can help your body feel safer. A steady voice can help your brain settle. Even sitting quietly with someone without fixing anything can change the whole feeling of the moment. You don't always need advice. You don't always need solutions. Sometimes you just need another heartbeater in the room. And for those of you that are watching this alone, I want you to hear me carefully here. Being alone and fighting alone are not the same thing. See, this community gets it. There are people watching us right now who know exactly what that 2 a.m. anxiety spiral feels like. You're not the only one. And if you can relate to that anxiety that just makes you want to disappear and isolate, give me a me too in the comments. Okay, let's go into number 2. Treating anxiety like it's a separate from Parkinson's. This is huge. Okay, huge. This one changed everything for me. For years, I put my Parkinson's symptoms in one category and my anxiety in another. Parkinson's was stiffness, medication, movement, fatigue, tremor, all the good stuff. Anxiety was just anxiety. Different bucket, different problem. But they're not always separate. Dopamine does not just help with movement, right? It also affects your mood, your motivation, your emotional regulation, and how your brain responds to stress. So when dopamine shifts, anxiety can shift too. And was a really big realization for me because suddenly some things started to make sense. Why some parts of the day I felt emotionally stronger than others. Why some other parts of the day I felt overwhelmed by things that normally wouldn't bother me. Why anxiety sometimes seems to line up with medication timing. Why a small problem could feel massive when my body was already struggling. And that's why I always tell people now, track your anxiety the same way you track other physical symptoms. Not obsessively, okay? Not in a way that makes you more anxious, okay? But just enough to start to notice those patterns. What time did it happen? Had your medication worn off? Had you eaten? Were you tired? Were you overstimulated? Were you in a crowd? Because sometimes anxiety is not random. Sometimes it's a clue. And honestly, that realization helped me stop feeling crazy because there is nothing worse than feeling anxious and then feeling anxious about being anxious. Now that's when anxiety gets a sequel. And nobody asked for Anxiety Part 2, The Electric Boogaloo, did they? Not a chance. But track it. Okay, mistake number 3, Googling symptoms late at night. Googling symptoms late at night. Okay, guilty? How about a hashtag been there? Hashtag been there. But it's confession time. How many of you've done this? It's 11:30 at night. You notice something weird earlier in the day. Maybe I don't know, maybe your chest felt tight. Maybe your legs felt strange. Maybe your sleep was off. Maybe you just had a weird sensation and you just had that thought, huh, that's new. And suddenly you're 3 pages deep into Google, convincing yourself you have Parkinson's, dementia, a rare neurological disorder worse than Parkinson's, low magnesium, some strange vitamin issue, and somehow now maybe rabies. You know, at 1 a.m., your brain suddenly becomes a horror movie director. And let me tell you, Parkinson's anxiety loves nighttime. Everything feels bigger at night, scarier at night, more permanent at night. And the problem is, late night Googling, it feels productive, doesn't it? Like you tell yourself, I'm just researching, I'm just keeping myself informed, I'm just trying to understand what's happening. But a lot of the time, it isn't research. It's anxiety looking for fuel, and Google has the gas station. The science made simple is this: when your nervous system is already activated, your brain is scanning for danger. And when you read scary medical information in that state, your brain does not calmly file it away. No, 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 no. It grabs it like evidence and it says stuff to you like, see, we knew something was wrong. Now, that is why I had to create a rule for myself. And I suggest you create it for yourself too. The rule is no symptom Googling after supper. Seriously. Seriously. If something is still concerning you in the morning, then write it down and bring it to your doctor, track it, ask questions, go and ask people about it. But do not let midnight Google become your neurologist, your therapist, your pharmacist, and your horror novel all in one. That guy is not board certified, I'm telling you right now. And here's mistake number 4, trying to think your way out of anxiety. Okay, now this one frustrated me for years because I'm a logical person. So when anxiety hit, I'd argue with it. I would tell myself, you're fine, relax, nothing's wrong, stop overthinking. Meanwhile, my anxiety was sitting there like, cute speech, Bryce, very inspiring. Anyway, your heart's still racing. You can't always out-argue Parkinson's anxiety. Trust me, I've tried. And the harder I tried to convince myself I was okay, the worse it sometimes got. Because sometimes the body has to calm down before the thoughts can calm down. And now that's the part I wish I understood earlier. Anxiety is not just a thought problem, okay? It's a body problem too. Your heart rate changes, your breathing rate changes, your muscles tense, your stomach reacts, your brain starts scanning. So if your body's sounding the alarm, logic alone might not be enough to turn it off. That's why physical calming tools matter. Breathing, humming, little cold water on the wrists, grounding, walking away, stretching, and just stepping away from noise. Put your feet on the floor and name what you see. And I know some people hear that and they think it sounds a little woohoo, but this is not magic. This is nervous system regulation. With Parkinson's, the nervous system can be extra sensitive. It's like having a smoke detector that goes off every time you make toast. There might not be a fire, but the alarm is still screaming. And when that happens, yelling at the smoke detector usually does not help at all. You have to clear the air, right? You gotta shake it up. Same with anxiety. Sometimes the first step is not think better, do better. Sometimes the first step is help the body feel safe. There you go. All right, just before we get to number 5, don't forget, stay tuned to the end because I'm going to give you that moment, that one moment that I was doing so wrong that changed everything for me with anxiety. And I'm going to share that at the end. But here's mistake number 5, avoiding everything that triggers the anxiety. Now this one, this is the one that slowly makes people disappear from their own lives. And it usually starts small. You avoid one thing because it feels overwhelming, and then another, and then another. And soon your world starts shrinking without you even realizing it. Maybe it's grocery stores, right? Maybe it's the restaurants, phone calls, crowds, driving, support groups, family gatherings, appointments, even things that you used to enjoy. And trust me, I get you. I understand why. Avoidance works temporarily, and that's the trap. If the grocery store makes you anxious and you stop going, you feel relief. Whew. If the phone call makes you anxious and you avoid them, you feel relief. If crowds make you anxious and you avoid and stay home, you feel relief. In the short term, avoidance feels like winning. But the problem is the long term. Long term, it teaches your brain that that place really is dangerous. That situation really is too much. You cannot handle this. And fear grows, and the world gets smaller, and your confidence gets quieter, and anxiety starts making decisions for you. Now, let me be clear. I'm not saying throw yourself into the deep end. I'm not saying to force yourself into overwhelming situations just to prove a point. Those are not helpful. The goal is not fearlessness. The goal is tolerance. Tiny steps, tiny wins. Walking into the store for 5 minutes counts. Making one difficult phone call counts. Going to the restaurant but sitting near the exit still counts. Showing up shaky always counts. With Parkinson's, progress does not always look like a giant victory. Sometimes progress looks like doing the thing for 3 minutes and then going home. And that still counts. And now it's time for Carmen's Care Partner Corner. Here's what Carmen, my wife, wrote for me to read to you today. When anxiety hits, one of the hardest things as a care partner is feeling helpless. You want to fix it, you want to make it stop, but I've learned that Bryce usually does not need 10 solutions in that moment. He needs calm, he needs reassurance, he needs presence. One thing I would tell care partners is this: try not to minimize what the person is feeling. Saying "don't worry" or "you're fine" may come across from love, but sometimes it makes the person feel like they're not being heard. Instead, try things like "I'm here, you're safe. We don't have to solve everything right now. Let's just get through this moment." Sometimes the best thing that you can do is sit beside someone and remind them that they're not facing it alone. Wow, thank you, Carmen. And that is so true, because when anxiety hits, I don't always need a TED Talk in the living room. I don't need a full PowerPoint presentation titled "Reasons Why Bryce Should Calm Down." Sometimes I just need calm. I need that steady voice. And I need a reminder that this moment's going to pass. And, I know there are some of you watching. You're watching this alone. Maybe you don't have a care partner. Maybe it's midnight, 3 in the morning. Maybe it's first thing in the morning. You might be alone in your apartment, your house, your bedroom, trying quietly to hold yourself together. And I want to say this to you clearly. You matter too. Your anxiety matters. Your fear matters. Your experience matters. And I see you, and this community sees you. So I want you to build your own anxiety plan, not a complicated one, not a 42-page binder with tabs and a laminator. A simple plan that helps. What helps when anxiety hits? Who can you text? What breathing technique works? What song calms you? What reminder do you need on your phone? What is the one thing you can do instead of Googling symptoms at midnight? Because when anxiety hits, your brain does not want to invent a plan. It wants something familiar. It really does. Now, at the beginning, I told you that I would share that moment where I realized my anxiety was not just in my head. And this is important. There was a time where I started noticing that my anxiety seemed to show up in patterns. It wasn't always random. It wasn't always tied to something obvious. Sometimes I would just suddenly feel, I don't know, unsettled. I'd feel tense. I'd feel like something was wrong. And at first I blamed myself and I thought, why am I anxious? Why can't I control this? What's wrong with me today? But then I started to pay attention. And I realized that there are times when that anxious feeling lined up with my Parkinson's symptoms. Maybe I was wearing off. Maybe I was overtired. Maybe I had pushed too hard. Maybe my body was already under stress before my mind even caught up. And that changed everything for me, because instead of saying, I must be losing it, I could say, wait a second. What if my body's trying to tell me something? That one shift gave me back some control. Now, not complete control. This is Parkinson's, not a Disney movie. No birds flew in and folded my laundry. But it gave me a different way to look at it. It made anxiety feel less like a personal failure and more like information. And that is what I wanted you to take from this episode. Your anxiety may be telling you something. Not always, not perfectly, but sometimes. And when you start noticing patterns, you can stop fighting yourself so much. And if you want deeper conversation on this, check out the club. The link's in the description below. It's free, real people, real conversations, people who get it, and also some trackers for anxiety to help you. And if this episode helped you, please share it with one person who is quietly fighting Parkinson's anxiety and thinks they're the only one, because they're not. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I'd love to have you here. We're building a real community around real Parkinson's life. The good, the bad, sometimes the ridiculous, and the reality. And believe me, anxiety is definitely part of the reality. Now, because you made it this far, you've officially unlocked your Bryce-ism of the episode. And here it is. With Parkinson's anxiety, my brain can go from everything is fine to we should probably alert the authorities because I misplaced my reading glasses. And the worst part, they were on my head again. All right. Until next time, I want you to keep showing up. I want you to keep being real. Keep laughing when you can. And you keep doing life today. I love you. And I'll see you on the next episode.